Hey everyone, welcome to Tigers Talk Ethics. My name is Erin Carter. Our panelists for today are Thomas Hobbs, Maggie Tehan, Melissa Weaver, and Cole Hancock. Today we're going to be talking about should Clemson Tiger student athletes, well, student athletes in general, be paid. So, what are your guys' opinions on that?
I feel like that Clemson. I feel like not any athletes, especially one of the main sports, bring in a lot of revenue every year through selling their jerseys, selling tickets, having millions of dollars coming into the program. I feel like they should have some sort of incentive. I know you can argue that the smaller time athletes don't get any money because they don't bring in as much money. So if one should get paid, all should get paid. But I feel like the ones that bring in the main money stream should be able to get paid at least a little something, or at least a little, not a salary, but just some sort of benefits.
Don't you think that scholarship, a full ride to a D1 school is not enough? I mean, that's like how much now? Like $80,000, $100,000, and that's a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, it is, but people that's still a lot. They're sitting there seeing their jerseys get sold on the streets for 50 and $60.
Yeah, but they're amateur athletes. They're amateur athletes.
They're 18 years old. They're old enough to get paid. They should be able to get paid. They're adults.
A lot of them work jobs at homes and are sources of income for their parents. So not having them there takes up all their time playing sports. So they could send that money home. I mean, obviously it's up to them making the decision, and they may be mature enough not to make that decision, but it could make an impact in their house.
Well, I mean, and I know, I feel like that's a situation for a lot of college students in general, and they're still having to pay for college, being away for college. These athletes, they're preparing for their career, which is to play in the NFL or to play in the NBA or whatever. I mean, I guess mainly we're talking about football, but at the same time, everybody else is putting in their time at school, and everybody else is away from their homes, and some people have to take out tons of dollars in loans. But the athletes, yeah, they have to put in 20 extra hours a week. I think the max is 20. I don't know, but so many extra hours a week, but they're getting their entire education paid for, plus summer school, plus they get stipends for groceries. They get their living covered. They get bonuses when they go to bowl games. They get allowances when they go away. They stay in hotels the nights before games.
You mean like money bonuses? They don't get money bonuses.
Oh, well, they get Xboxes. They get crazy sunglasses. They get, crazy amounts of money. They get money just so that they can get down to where the bowl game is. And some of them don't. They get I think the year that they went to Tampa, they got $800 to $1,000 to get down to Tampa, and half of them live in Florida.
That's just a small amount of money that's come out of the millions that gets made off that. People reap the benefits of that money that had nothing to do with it. The programs. They're not the program, the NCAA. They sit here and rake in all this money from these amateur athletes because they're the ones generating the people. They're the ones generating the viewers that make their money. And instead, they get incentives. They do get bonuses for the Xboxes and all that. That's true, but they're the reason for why. That's the reason why they're getting that stuff, and they should get more. I feel like not a lot more. I'm not saying they get, 106 figures. That's absurd. I'm just saying they should get at least. Some of them are already getting paid right now under the table illegally. What are you supposed to do with that? There's nothing you can do about that. People just get in trouble. Programs get in trouble, and so it's just wrong right now. So might as well make it right.
I think that before the athletes get paid, they should. The NCAA should cut down on their costs. I think that, coming from an athletic background, I used to row. Of course we wouldn't bring in any money, but we got 20 scholarships for 80-something, 70-something girls, whereas a football team gets 90 full rides. So, they bring in a crap load of money, but they also get so many more scholarships, and they get jerseys, and they get new warm-ups every few weeks. They get new shoes. They get new helmets. Like, I mean, we had the same uniforms for almost 4 years. And the football team gets new uniforms every year, if not more than every year.
It also depends where alumni donates the money. They could specify where they want it going. So if football alumni are the ones making most money after college, then they may be directing their money in the football realm.
Yeah.
But
Now, according to PBS, it says that the average scholarship falls about $3,000 short of an athlete's living expenses. So if that was the case, do you think that they should be given extra money?
Are we talking about, well, I guess we need to talk generally about athletics in general. Now, I would agree with that in general. I mean, if you are, you know, if you are a swimmer or a rower that's putting in just as many hours as a football team is, and you're getting paid 70, or you're getting a 17% scholarship because you weren't given so much money from the school, then yeah, you know, you could, like, I guess essentially like not have enough money, but all the other students are in the same thing, or like all the non-athletes are in the exact same boat.
But they're not athletes.
and they have time to work.
They're not. Yeah, they're not pursuing. They're not pursuing. Most people that play athletes are trying to either pursue something in the future, or if they don't, then they should. Then you should quit or do something else. Like, that's what you work for. You spend your time on that. It takes up a lot of your time. How many people, like, what other besides athletics, or I guess holding a official position or something, would take up that much time? Like, that's why it's easier. I mean, it's.
Well, I mean, where else is there? If you were to row, the only other place you were to go is the Olympics, and that's like 20 people. Okay, yeah. If you're a swimmer, the only other real place to go is the Olympics, and that's a very, very select few people. Now, like baseball and football, and I mean, even soccer is just not. There's not as many opportunities. So, like, honestly, I feel like, and a lot of the girls that I used to row with would be like, you know, well, we're just going to be here. We're just going to row because it's something to do while we're in college. We enjoy the sport, and it's something to do while we're in college. And I feel like a lot of college athletes are like that. I mean, why would the swim team stay and still compete? I mean, all the swimmers that were on the team are still here competing, and their program got cut 2 years ago. You know? So, like, I feel like the athletes love what they do. And, yeah, okay, like, they're probably going to love what they do, but it's more of a job when they get, I don't know. Whatever.
Now, it's been rumored that, like, when, you know, student athletes go to bowl games, if the program is successful, they're given, you know, awards like, you know, iPads and Xboxes, and they get lots of free stuff. So do you guys agree with that? Do you think they should be given all this free stuff?
I think they should be given all this, like, little bonuses and stuff like Xbox, maybe nice watches and stuff. But that's because you make a lot of money in the bowl games when you go to the bowl games through the program. But the school has a lot of other places where they need to be venting our money right now. Like, I think there's development is about to be $439 billion in development in the next, like, 10 years. So we have other places where we could be putting our money instead of football
Do you feel like
players.
there should be more academic scholarships, considering how many are given to student athletes?
Yes.
I think it also depends where alumni donates money, because they definitely specify where it goes.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think that paying college athletes is going to transform the program, like make it more professional? Like,
I think it gave athletes more of an incentive to do well for their school. I mean, they're getting paid for it. I mean, they'd want to show out better. They'd want to. More of them might stick around for school for all 4 years. They might actually graduate instead of just thinking about going pro and making money and professionally. They have a little extra change in their pocket in college. They might stick around and actually graduate.
Why would they stick around if they're getting ready to go sign like a multi-million-dollar contract.
Not everyone is going to be signing a multi-million-dollar
Right,
contract.
but they're going to probably make six figures.
I mean, it's still more of an incentive than not getting paid at all. I mean, I just feel like more people would stick around.
The problem with making it allowed, though, is if it became a competition, the players would start demanding more and more money, and then the market would get too big, and the schools would start spending even more and more money, and like that would just get carried way too far out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see like where an athlete such as, I mean, let's just stick with Clemson, like it's really popular, Sammy Watkins or Taj Boyd, like. You don't have every football player's number made into a jersey. Like you normally have 3, maybe 4 players' numbers made into jerseys. So like, should those players get paid more money than others because they're being publicized?
That's another ethical issue. Like, you know, if we're sticking with Clemson, Sammy Watkins, you know, they make these jerseys that have his number on it, and the companies make tons of money off of him, but he gets none of it.
And now they also don't put his name on them.
They just put the number.
Right. So like, I mean, I have a Woody Dantzler jersey. Like it's a Woody Dantzler jersey, but it's number 1. Like I don't even know who's number 1 now, but I could wear it now, and they could be like, "Oh, you're wearing such and such a jersey." I'd be like, "No, you know."
So do you think that's ethical for them to do that?
To pay them for wearing their jerseys?
Well, to not pay them, I guess, to make money off of them, but.
I mean, they're I believe that they're property of this. I mean, I hate to say that, but they're property of the school. They sign a contract saying, "I'm going to obey these rules. I'm going to, you know, whatever. I accept this scholarship. I'm going to." I mean, you have to sign a paper every single year, and I mean, I think that honestly, you're basically waving away your right to do anything, because after you sign that paper, honestly, the athletic program has basically has control over you. So.
And the money that they make too. Like I feel like it's.
All right, and now we're going to go see some man on the street. Should be paid in addition to receiving an educational scholarship.
No. I mean, you could think of it as the scholarship as being paid itself. There's a lot of talk, like a lot of speculation about college athletes getting paid, and obviously that's illegal and not allowed by the colleges. But I feel as if a scholarship is actually being paid itself. Like, obviously, we're paying a couple $1,000s a year, and most of the athletes aren't paying anything. I don't see what the difference is. It's technically being paid, in my opinion.
Yeah, so no additional money then.
No.
Do you think that you would stand by this opinion if you were a college athlete?
It's hard to say. I mean, obviously right now I'll say, yeah, I don't agree with it, but I guess my opinion would be the same. I'd hope it is.
Do you think about like the time that these college athletes are putting in and stuff? Like, do you still think that the scholarship?
I mean, it's a lot of time, but think about the time that we're putting in, who aren't athletes, into our educational experience and our studies.
Yeah.
They're putting the work into their sports, not their studies. We're putting the work into our studies, not our sports. So, I mean, it's just a swap. That's all it is. And they're getting paid for something. I mean, granted, it does bring a lot of money into the school, but they shouldn't be given an advantage over us, especially if they're not contributing to the academic part of the university. Granted, there are smart athletes. I'm not saying every athlete is dumb, but I think there's a trend that a lot of the athletes aren't nearly as smart as the students that aren't athletes.
Do you agree with them, like, being paid to go to the bowl games and stuff?
What do you mean being paid to go to the bowl? What do you
Well,
mean?
I think they receive additional money to go to, like, if they go to a bowl game, they
Really?
get paid. Yeah, that's what I've heard. So.
No, not at all. I use other words that I can't use in this video, but that's not right.
Okay, I think that's good. Welcome back to Tigers Talk Ethics. Today we're talking about should college athletes be paid, and now we're going to revisit the contract topic. Melissa?
I guess what I was talking about before is the fact that when you come on, when actually you sign to play somewhere, like, yeah, you have the initial signature or whatever, but you normally have this huge meeting where you got all this paperwork to fill out, and you have to fill out, like, where you worked, who you worked for, how much money you made. That's like one of the things. I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen that come up on the news, like people have not been or something's been violating NCAA whatever. Violations. NCAA violations. But anyways, like, they give us a stack of papers. I mean, it's probably like 20 sheets of paper. And, I mean, honestly, like, nobody reads them. But you sign them. And you basically, like, we all know, we're, like, sitting there and we're like, we're signing away our lives. Like, you know. And we know that. I mean, basically, the school has control over us at that point in time. Anyways, I feel like because of that, the school should be able to do whatever they want with you. I mean, it sucks, and like, it may not be right, but that's how it is.
All the players know what they're getting themselves into. Is what you're saying.
Do they know, like, what are the contracts? What language are they written in? Because personally, I'm 19. I don't know that I would understand a very, like, legal, jargony contract.
It's not like fine print, but it's just a lot of, I mean, I can't even remember. But it's, I mean, nobody wants to sit there. It's like when you fill out paperwork at the doctor's office, you're like, okay, my name goes there. Like, you know, I mean, you sign your name, your address, your social security number. Like, I mean, they know everything about you. And, I mean, like I said, it may not be right, but that's how it is. And because of that, like,
it's not. I mean, it's not right because like people like Sammy Watkins or Taj Boyd, you said earlier, they sit there and sign it, they don't receive any benefits, like, or anything like that. Like, that's not, as you say, it's not right. They have to sign away something that makes them. But it's like, why is it acceptable then that if you can just be completely controlled? I mean, I guess they're paying you, you're their property, I guess, as you said, but I feel like if you give them more incentives besides just scholarship. I know scholarship is a lot. It's a lot of money. But, like, almost just, like, restricting them to that contract, like, binding them to the school just doesn't seem fair, like, as you said. And that's why I feel like with that contract, millions of dollars they could be making is just going, I mean, it's not going to complete waste because, I mean, people are using it for good use, but I feel like they should get more instead of just a little bit, or just some money.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like, I mean, it sucks that it's come down to this, but that it's about money. But it should not be about money. It should be for the love of the game. You know, all these politics that come into it. I mean, if any of y'all have seen that CBS report on Sammy Watkins, like, the number one thing that his mom was most proud of with him was that he was out of his gangster neighborhood and that he was at Clemson University. She probably could have cared less if she had to pay money. Or she probably could care less if he brought her money. She just wanted him out of that environment. And that was priceless for her. And I think for a lot of people that come from homes like that, I mean, you see that a lot in football. I hate to generalize or stereotype, but football and basketball, you see that a lot. And, you know, especially if they come from in-state, they come to a great place like Clemson University that get their entire education paid for, whereas they would probably never have the opportunity to do that. They have, a lot of them are receive Pell Grants, which is, you know, extra cash in their pocket on top of their scholarship. Plus, if they are, you know, smart, if they have some, you know, incentive to work and go to school, then they have their life scholarship or their Hope Scholarship or whatever. And, you know, the other side of that is, like, what do you do with players who could actually pay for their school, who, you know, get this entire scholarship, get the life scholarship, like, have all this money on top of this and just are, like, rolling in the dough.
Thomas, where do you think the need or want for extra money is coming from? Because for a lot of these players, like she was saying, it is like a huge advantage to come to a school and receive like living expenses, a meal plan, and a free education. So it might be enough for them, and it appears to be because everyone has signed the contract and agreed to that. So where do you think the need for extra money is coming from?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people will see what happened with like the Michigan and all the people that Chris Webber and all those guys that got in trouble for receiving money. But the reason, like, I don't know if we watched the ESPN documentary on it, but he would walk around and see people wearing his jersey and seeing it going for the store, and he'd be driving a broke down car, wouldn't have any money for food, would be barely have anything. I mean, I know it's probably different now. That was 20 years, 15 years ago. I'm sure they built stuff in for that, but I feel like that's what the incentive. People sit there and see the money they could be making, and that's what leads people down the road of accepting money illegally, and that just makes it even worse. Which programs get hurt, programs get crumbled underneath it, and it's just, I mean, I just don't think it's right.
And I don't think you can generalize which athlete, like as a whole, that athlete should or shouldn't be paid, because everyone's home life is different. Everyone needs money for different things. Everyone's financial situation is different coming into college and leaving. So there are so many variables you have to take into account.
Great points. All right, well, we're going to take a break now. We'll be back in a minute. So the question is, do you think that
Don't look
college
at me.
athletes should be paid in addition to the educational scholarship that they're receiving right now?
I don't think athletes should be paid because if they wanted to be paid to play sports, they could go play professional sports. But they're here to go to school and to play sports. And I think that the scholarship money they receive is enough reimbursement for what they put into it.
So thinking about all the time that they put in, like, you know, practice and games and stuff, do you think that the perks that they receive with, like, their scholarship and, like, free hotel and, like, free books and stuff, do you think that's enough to compensate them for all the time and effort that they put in?
Yes, because if you're putting so much time and effort into something, it's got to be something you enjoy doing. So getting the scholarship money should be plenty because they like it and they're here to go to school and to play sports, so they're getting rewarded.
Now, if you, since you're a student here at Clemson, like, if you knew that the students were receiving, like, additional money, would that make you upset?
Yes, because I personally try hard to make decent grades, and I didn't get a ton of scholarship money in high school, so I feel like if anything, we should be getting rewarded for better academic performance in school. And it's so hard to find financial aid as it is and scholarship money. I don't think athletes should be getting any more than what they have
Do
already.
you think that if you were a college athlete that you would feel differently, or do you like to think that you would stand by your opinion?
I like to think that I would stay by my opinion, but I don't know because I've never even thought about playing a college sport.
Yeah.
So it might be different if I were in their position.
Yeah, you might have a better understanding or something, or
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the perks.
Because I really don't have a good idea of exactly how much time and effort they put into it.
Or what it takes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, wonderful.
All right, welcome back to Tigers Talk Ethics. We actually have some new panelists this time. This is Mike Mathis, Chris Simmons, Tim Overton, and Spence Taylor. And we're going to get started talking about our topic, which is should college athletes be paid? What are you guys' opinions?
Well, I think they should. The schools make tons of money on these athletes, and it's ridiculous that certain players are not allowed to get paid, especially endorsements. If Nike wants to run an ad with Sammy Watkins in or someone like that, there's no reason why they shouldn't be paid for that.
I also feel that the athletes should be paid. They're putting in a lot of hours a week, which they could in other time they could be working the same amount and be making thousands of dollars. But instead, they're dedicating their time for our school and trying to better our school, and I feel like they should be rewarded for that.
I think those are both pretty good arguments. The endorsements, though, right now they can't accept any endorsements, so it's not as though they're losing money that's being made by Nike. Just Nike's not making any money off of Sammy Watkins right now. And although, you know, of course, I think I'm going to make the same argument I guess a lot of people have. You know, they're not going to be making a whole lot more with a high school degree than, you know, $30,000, which is what most people are paying to go to Clemson right now. So there's their $30,000 right there.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're basically getting paid with their scholarships, and you got a big star coming out of high school, and he's basically a celebrity being recruited, and he gets to go to a D1 school and gets all the benefits and doesn't pay anything, and he can. I mean, if he's good enough, he'll eventually get his benefit in the NFL or the NBA or wherever his profession takes him.
Yeah, they make a pretty good argument that, you know, they come to college, they're given living expenses, they're given a meal plan, they're given education, and it gives them 4 more years to be looked at and to get their name out there. So how do you argue that they need more money?
Well, I think if we're going to use Sammy Watkins as an example, which I guess we are in this situation, he is worth far more than a scholarship. Like right now, he could go to the NFL and he'd be a top 5 pick probably right now. He didn't even have to come to Clemson really. I mean, he's a star. So if you look at the relationship, I feel that the school is making way more money on him than he is getting benefit from the school. Because Clemson really, he could go to any school in the country. He doesn't need Clemson at all. But we really do need him, and he creates a lot of revenue for the school.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, Sammy Watkins is one of the reasons that our football team is going to this Orange Bowl right now, which is gonna provide our school with millions of dollars and just publicity being on that stage. We haven't been on that stage in a long time, and if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be making that money. But he could be doing this anywhere. He chooses to come here, so I feel that we should offer him incentives to stay here as long as we can get him to stay here. And I feel like giving him money would create a reason for him to stay longer than just 3 years. Maybe we can get him to stay 4 years, and I don't know, the school would end up benefiting more than he actually would end up benefiting.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and it's true. I mean, certainly Sammy's making us a lot of money. What concerns me more is the people that aren't quite as talented as Sammy Watkins and aren't going to be making a couple $1 million in a couple years anyway. Because a lot of what those guys are putting themselves through, health-wise and that kind of stuff is going to put them in a lot of disadvantages later. And maybe if there were ways to pay them, in maybe health benefits later, those guys, I think that might be, something worthwhile. But to give a kid, an 18-year-old kid, a bunch of money to blow while he's 18, trying to have a good time in college, it's not really a financially responsible way to do that. So.
Clemson is offering them the opportunity to get an education and to get a degree. So if he does get hurt later on, he will have the degree to fall back on. So.
I agree that a major issue is being able to, you can't pay every player fairly in all sports. The colleges don't make that much money. Other than football and basketball, really most programs lose a ton of money. So you can't pay every Division I athlete. So I think what they should do is just ignore the fact that of Clemson or a university paying them, and let the players, market themselves with advertisements, jersey sales, stuff like that. Really, when you take away that ability, you're exploiting them to a great degree, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you have a school, I don't think the school should be paying the players, because then you get into people shopping players at a high school, and it'd be a nasty game. But I wouldn't be opposed to. If a player's good enough and Nike wants to sign him, give him a pair of cleats, then more power to him. And he accomplished that.
Do you think that would damage the program though? Because we're all about team, we're all in here. So do you think that would damage the program and making players jealous, they wouldn't play as well?
I guess you could. It does damage that too, a little bit. But I still don't see how you can say an athlete is not allowed to make money in other means. Whereas if we had a award-winning musician or singer or someone at Clemson, they would be allowed to sell albums on the market and make millions of dollars doing that. So why is an athlete different? Why can't an athlete make money on their talents?
I agree.
I think the way the NCAA would probably answer that right now, I think there's really distinct recruiting advantages that would give a lot of schools, because you're going to go to a place, I don't know, like Miami or USC, or I don't know, somewhere in the Northeast, it's going to have big marketing advantages over a lot of places, and that's going to give those schools like that a distinct recruiting advantage, which would upset the competitive balance in college football or basketball or anything else.
I feel like it's safe to say everybody knows that athletes are getting benefits under the table at every college pretty much, And I feel like if we went open about it, made open records about how much they received, what all they received, that it could be a lot more fair overall, because everyone would know what they were getting instead of it just being hidden from everybody. Like earlier, people were saying that they're just giving Xboxes and iPads like with no record of them getting that, because that would break the NCAA like rules or whatever. But if they just received like a certain amount of money that everybody could see, and then people would know if they were actually getting more extra benefits than they were supposed to.
Someone brought up this point earlier, but if they were to start receiving money, don't you think that there would just be demand for something else, like more money or?
I mean, I feel like they should have a set cap. Like, obviously, the larger institutions, if they could just give them as much money as they wanted, the richer schools would have the best athletes because they'd be able to pay them the most money. And everyone would want to go there and receive as much money as they can. But if it was just a set cap that every school could only pay a certain amount, then athletes would just be more diverse everywhere, and every school would have the same opportunity to get just as good athletes.
Yeah, I mean, if I do think that if a player, like if he has a jersey out, or I mean, like they were saying earlier, then I mean, I feel like I would want money for, if I saw somebody wearing my jersey, I'd be like, I mean, that's going right to the school, like. But I guess you get it back if you're good enough and get it in the NFL. But.
Yeah. Tim, how do you feel about that? If you were a college athlete, would you feel the same way?
Never been that good. I've tried to put myself in their shoes. But I mean, yeah, I'm sure, that would bother me a little bit. But, again, I think I would deal with it by constantly reminding myself, hey, I'm getting a free education. All these kids I'm seeing every day in class, they're paying a lot for their education. And, if I take that education seriously, or, depending on how good I am, take, my talent very seriously, it's an investment for the future. And I think to address his point about the equal pay, I mean, I like that idea a lot too, and having it open on the table. But what concerns me with that too is, again, giving this to 18-year-old kids and say, hey, here's $5,000 or something. I think the better way to handle that would be giving that to them at the end of their careers, and if they want to take it out in loans or something, they can. But that way there's a motivation to graduate too, which should be and isn't an explicit enough goal at a lot of these programs.
Now, Tim brings up a good point. Are you guys arguing that the extra money that they would receive would go towards like additional living expenses or things for the house, or do you think they should just be given the money to do whatever they want with?
Well, I don't believe that the schools specifically should pay them, but I feel they should be allowed to market themselves like any other person can do in the open market. If they want to, do advertisements, or if they're getting free tattoos at a local tattoo parlor, that should be their prerogative. I don't see why the NCAA is allowed to lock up these players and prevent them from pursuing other means of making money.
Well, let's bring up the point that the NCAA was just recently debating whether or not they should be giving every college athlete about $2,000 extra. And I think they passed in October, they made the decision that they were going to say, yes, we are allowed to give the money, but it's not to everyone. They can give up to $2,000 to any particular player, but they can basically choose who it is. So do you guys think that's ethical, that they would be allowed to just choose?
I feel like that's less ethical than the idea of a player being able to promote himself, because there's lots of athletes out there that don't generate any money for a university. They could end up costing the university money, when there could be one person who's making multi-millions of dollars for the university, which I feel like it's just obvious that they shouldn't receive the same amount of rewards as the person who's making millions of dollars for the university.
How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I think I said earlier, like I would like it if it was across the board. If everybody could get $2,000, I think that makes some sense there are, expenses that college students have that are not covered by tuition, room, and board. And, to evaluate the full cost of tuition for everybody and make it, or not tuition, of, the college experience, I think is fair. And in my opinion, can be considered a full scholarship. But again, if you get to pick and choose who you're giving it to, I think we're losing the idea that it's, college sports was intended to focus around education and hopefully, get these kids to graduate, because not all of them are going to go pro. And by not all, I mean like maybe 5% will go pro. So
Majority will not.
I think, like, the NCAA is so corrupt, really, that they may have been founded on the idea that it's about education, but it's not about education. Players lose scholarships. Big football programs, players lose scholarships all the time for not performing on the field. Their education only matters to the extent that they can qualify for bowl games and win. They just hit the minimum. That's all I really care about. So I think as long as the NCAA continues to just be an organization built on making as much money as possible, they shouldn't be allowed to force players into amateurism, which I don't really see the ethical benefit in amateurism anyway. I don't see why that makes the game like more special or anything like that.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
So the question is, do y'all think that college athletes should be paid in addition to the scholarship that they're already receiving?
I think they shouldn't, because, they're already getting paid for an education, and, just to be paid to come to school, I think should be enough. And if they continue with their athletic career, then they get paid in the pros if they want to. So I don't think in college they should be paid.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him on one sense, because they are getting plenty of benefits with the free education. But on the other hand, they are bringing in so much money for the school. And, for instance, football players can single-handedly bring in millions of dollars almost for one school, and they don't get to see any of that income.
Well, what about when they're on jersey sales and stuff? Sammy's number's on it, but he's not getting any money from that. He's not making any commission.
Yeah.
In the pros, they'd make money on that.
That's true. I feel like maybe Sammy should get paid for the T-shirts that have his name on it.
Yeah.
But then it'd be all political, because if there's not a flat rate salary for every single athlete on the team, then it's favoritism, and that's it being a professional athlete. They can't even have their names on the back of the jersey.
Yeah.
So it's true.
And to what extent would they get paid? Because they're already technically getting paid for college, So it's would they get paid on top of that, and then the college is just a stipend? It wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think they're receiving a free education, and then it's they put in so much more time and effort into their sports and stuff. So it's should they be receiving additional money, additional perks for this extra time, or is there stuff that goes on behind the scenes more effort that they put in than we actually know about?
Yeah, I feel like they really do put in the amount of hours of a full-time job. They got film, they have meetings, they have all the aspects of school on top of that. They still have to make their grades. They have tutors and stuff to help them, but they still have to take their exams. They still have to do their assignments, but they still have this other job on top. So I feel like maybe just because you're getting paid in your education, they're doing more than just learning. The school's utilizing them, so I can see how they would need to get paid.
And the only thing the school pays for is just tuition and books and stuff. Living expenses is on them. Food, all that stuff they have to provide, and they don't have enough time to get jobs and pay for it themselves. So I feel like maybe they should get a little stipend or something, from the school to help pay for living expenses.
So do y'all agree with the perks that they receive for bowl games and the ACC championship?
That's what I was gonna say. That's a big thing, because they say they're not allowed to get paid and stuff, which I agree with. But they get all this stuff for bowl games, and who knows what boosters, and when people come, they get money for recruitment stuff. And I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than people know. I know a guy whose brother was on the team, and we went to some terrible bowl or something, but they walked into this hotel room and there's just electronics everywhere, and you could just pick what you wanted.
Really?
And it's that doesn't seem. If you're not getting paid, you're not getting paid. It's either. I don't think there should be an in between.
It's kind of counterintuitive, because they say they're not allowed to accept these gifts because they're an athlete. Yet the NCAA can go and then provide them. I know an athlete who was at the College World Series, and upon arriving in Omaha, they were given a ridiculous amount of free gear, bags, cleats, shoes, MP3 players, just tons of stuff, yet if it was any other time of the year, they're not allowed to take it. So it doesn't really make sense that way.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that like all the college athletes or something were receiving like $2,000 on top of their scholarship, like in addition to their education. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just
that's a new thing the NCAA has been discussing, and I think they decided to start in the future. They're gonna pay an additional $2,000 in addition to their tuition to try to be a stipend for their living expenses. But I still don't know that covers all your books and food and travel and everything else needed to go to school.
But that would cut down on like all the illegal activity with boosters and stuff, because everybody's getting money. So there's no need to take all the free gifts or handouts.
That's true. They might still take them though.
They could.
Yeah, see that's the thing. Like, how do you control boosters? Like, because I think that's so like hidden and behind the scenes that they're not getting paid now, but they do receive stuff. Like, it's not. It's obvious that they're, receiving things from whether it be bowl games or like a lot of people receive boosters. Look at the scandal with Miami. I'm not saying every school's like that, but it's there, and so either like give them a stipend and completely cut off the booster stuff, or I don't know. You'd have to be able to like work with it and figure something out.
There are plenty of instances where obviously the Cam Newton scandal last year was such a big ordeal, and it surfaced that his dad was trying to collect money for his son. If Cam Newton wasn't as good as he was and wasn't the Heisman front runner at the time, it would have never been uncovered. So I'm sure there are other times when boosters do try to pay players, and because there are plenty of 5-star recruits that are just bust and don't do well. So it will never surface that they were paid to play there, but maybe it happens, and it's all behind the scenes.
Do you guys feel like as students, like you work really hard on your academics and like it's not really that fair, like to have college athletes coming in and being like paid extra to do sports? Or I don't know, a lot of people have a opinion like whereas like they're like students and working really hard on their academics and they're not really being like rewarded as much as like the athletes who are working hard on their sports and they're being like given a lot of money.
It does seem a little unfair that although I don't mind them getting the free gear that they use to play in sometimes because they need it to play, but it's a little frustrating at times when you see college athletes that have all these tutors and people that more or less do their assignments at times. It appears that way, at least, when we have to bust our butt in all our classes and we don't really have near as much of the academic aid that they do, and but at the same time they have to miss classes for their sport, so
Kind of bounces out maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back to Tigers Talk Ethics. We're going to continue with our topic of should college athletes be paid. Okay, well first I want to start with hearing about how you guys feel as a student here. Like y'all are students, and then how do you feel about these student athletes who are, they get free tutoring, they get study hall, and they probably spend more time on their sports than they actually do on their study. So how do you guys feel about that?
I don't have a problem with it. I enjoy watching them play, and I feel they bring immense amounts to the university, so I have no problem with them excelling at their sport and getting paid to do it.
I feel like everybody could agree that college wouldn't be the same without sports. It's a big part of what we do. We enjoy watching them, we enjoy going to them, and we enjoy like rooting for our sports teams. So, they obviously don't, they're going to be spending, we want them to spend as much time as they can practicing so we have something good to watch. So I feel like they don't need to spend as much time on their schoolwork as, they need to be able to pass and hopefully graduate, but they have other priorities too.
Yeah, I think I'm right with you guys on that. I think I'd be a hypocrite saying, I spend all my time working too. I probably spent just as much time, dedicated to Clemson football this week as I did studying. So, I'm okay with that. Once again, as long as they're doing the work and earning the same, the degree, and nobody's doing it for them, I'm all right with it.
Yeah, we all love our institutions that we go to, or we should, and we should appreciate the benefits that they bring to the university, and they actually help out a lot.
Okay. So you guys are all okay with them being paid to spend time on their sports while you guys are in the classroom working? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Well, like I said, I don't think schools actually paying them is feasible because it would create a huge competitive imbalance in the NCAA. But I'm perfectly fine with them using their abilities to pursue other assets to make money, whether that's getting a free car at a local car dealership or advertising or something like that. I really think they should be allowed to do whatever they want. They're not like enslaved to the NCAA or anything like that. They're free people.
I feel like the NCAA actually puts down like sanctions on them that, like, if a guy just randomly asked us if we wanted a free car, we could take it and it would be fine. But if one of these guys got offered a free car and took it and got caught, they could lose their scholarship and lose like all hope that they had. They would lose their education, lose their chance of being a professional athlete.
Yeah, and also universities get penalized for that kind of stuff. Like a lot of times, like people like alumni or trustees will give players money and it'll end up hurting the university rather than the player, like what happened to Ohio State and stuff like that.
I think where you get the difference there is I already lost my scholarship when I paid the university, $30,000, to come for this year. So that's when I lost my scholarship. So that's why I can accept free cars, and I also don't get offered free cars. So they have to sign something that says we're not accepting any free cars if they're going to get that scholarship, and that's their trade-off. And I tend to think that's a pretty fair one, but and they could always, and it's going to happen. Terrence Oglesby did it. People can go play in other leagues, get paid, take the free stuff if they think they're that good. But if we make it all about making money now, again, we're going to diminish the value of the education, which is what most of these guys hopefully will be living off the rest of their lives.
Now, y'all are against college athletes being paid, so are y'all okay with the college athletes being given, like goodies like iPads and, Ray-Bans and watches and stuff and maybe, a little extra cash for going to the bowl games? Do you think they should be rewarded for their hard work?
I mean, yes, I'm okay with that. Because I think that's something that it's a little different because the bowl, those are gifts from the bowls, which is, I believe I think they're owned by like companies. I think they're separate from the NCAA, I could be wrong. In which case, I think those, people that are making money on just that game, I think they should be entitled to gifts. And because and because that's out in the open, I think makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think it's it's a mixed subject because you also bring in a lot of money with home games and stuff, and they go to the bowl games, and so that I feel like if they're able to make it to a bowl game, they should at least get something in front of that. That should be all right.
And if a team wins their college, championship, like the conference championship, do you think that money should be distributed among players or given back to the school or given back to the conference?
Well, right now the NCAA basically takes all the money and distributes it back out to schools, or actually the conferences do. So when we go to the Orange Bowl, the ACC splits the money among the member schools. So I really don't see why that money shouldn't in some way trickle down to the players other than the competitive disadvantage, because the NCAA is all about making as much money as they can. Everything they do in football and basketball, that funds every other NCAA sport. So it's just extremely hypocritical for them to make the money and do everything to keep making money, like not having a playoff system, and then not allow the players to go and search for money in their own ways. Doesn't make any sense.
I feel like after maybe a team wins a championship, they get all this money, they shouldn't receive just straight cash, like checks to their pocket. Maybe they should be invested into the program and help build like the facilities and stuff like that. But a player should be able to, like, selling his jersey, like, it's him, like, it's not just a Clemson jersey, it's a player's jersey. People buy it for the number. It might not have their name on the back, but people buy it because it's that person, and they should be able to profit off of any sales that comes, like, directly because of them.
Well, the NCAA, they get about $500 million a year in revenue, and that doesn't even include the revenue that, like, or the payouts from the 28, like, football bowl games. So, I mean, what do you guys think that they should be doing with that money if they're not giving some of it back to the players?
I think I feel like I keep going back to this, and I don't like to repeat myself, but I think a lot of it's got to go back into, you know, education, into the universities, and you know, if there's no more money to give, you know, to help the players' education, which I think there is, and I think there's more things we can do with that money to motivate these guys to graduate. I think it should be going to, you know, help the rest of us and build our, you know, educational facilities. And, you know, and I think the sports program should benefit from it too. And I think we're using how much money to build that indoor practice facility right now, so.
Yeah, I mean, if you get the money from these games, and the money will just go back to the facilities and help you recruit, and eventually just help out your school in the long run, because it's going back in, it's benefiting the players in a way, because it's going to their facilities, helping out with different things like the Western Zone, and like he said, the indoor facilities. So
Well, how do you guys think this is going to affect high school sports? If college athletes were to be paid, it would obviously be motivation to work hard. You're going to get a salary when you get to college. What do you guys think about that?
People potentially could be shopping players though, and which, I mean, already does happen with like Cam Newton and stuff. His dad pretty much shopped him and got money off that. But I mean, can get into a dirty game, but in the same way, people could use that as motivation.
It kind of shows you how much the NCAA really values amateurism. Is if it's a great player who's making them a ton of money, they really don't care too much if he's getting paid under the table. But, you know, if it's like the third string player on some, you know, football, you know, some Mountain West team or something like that, they might call him out and call out that school for that. They're just extremely hypocritical in the way that they pretend to care a lot about amateurism, but really just care about how much money they're bringing in.
You've been watching Tiger Talk Ethics here at Clemson University.